Hello and welcome to this episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Laura Mignot, and this is part of my 29 Days of Magic series, where I interview a Black woman a day throughout the month of Black History Month. And today I am so delighted to have Karen Donaldson, who is a communication, body language, and confidence coach. We're going to have a great conversation. Take a listen. Hey, Karen.
Laura, it's so nice to be here. How you doing?
Good. I'm enjoying it. It's a nice Friday. We're all chilling. It's all good.
I love it.
So the way the podcast works is the first question is always the same. And I'm always delighted by the answers. And I'm sure you'll have something wonderful to say. So, Karen, what was your first job?
That's a really good question. So you want me to go back to my first job?
Whatever you'd like.
Okay, so let me go way back there. It kind of links into exactly what I do today. So I am a professional choreographer. That was chapter one of my life. So that was my first formal job, a professional choreographer at a really young age. And after I became a choreographer, a dance company I was working with, I was actually a dancer for, and what happened was our artistic director had to leave. And we took over the dance company, myself and another pair. And at that time, we were about 16 years old with a cast of about 70, which included dancers and a whole musical ensemble. That was my first job. Yes.
So you were 16 years old and you were running a dance studio.
Yes, I was the co-artistic director and co-choreographer as well. So I started as a principal dancer, had been dancing since age 13. And as I said, our head choreographer, artistic director had to leave, and myself and another principal dancer took it over. And our fellow dancers were either our age, younger, or much older. And the musical ensemble at that time, they were adults, the ages of our parents. So it was such an interesting dynamic that I know built who I am today, because at that point, I couldn't laugh with my fellow dancers when I was, in the room and not at the front of the room. So having to gain their respect, having to, at the time, I didn't realize what being assertive was, but having to grow into that so people would take me seriously and we could continue to build the company that we had. It was some work, but it was phenomenal. So that was essentially my first job.
Wow. Okay. You weren't playing. All right. This also indicates a lot about what you do today. So, all right. So you're working when you're 16 years old. How in the world do we get to be the woman you are today? What's that journey been like?
It's been an interesting journey. So today, thank you so much for the wonderful introduction as well. And I'm going to claim something, because something that we don't do as Black women is claim our worth and claim what we do and who we are and our bigness in the world. So I'm actually a celebrity communication, body language, and confidence coach. So I work with individuals all across the world, excited to work with celebrities, kick butt entrepreneurs all over the world. And the thing is this, I started out as a dance choreographer, went through high school. I was always a chatterbox, and my chatterbox is paying me well right now. But nonetheless, my last year of high school, I got pregnant with my daughter. And I'm from Toronto, Canada. And prior to me getting pregnant, I was a track star, on the debate team, an AB student, a mentor, great with the teachers. I got my track scholarship. The school was excited. Everyone was excited for me. And right after Christmas, I came back to school, and I had to share that I was pregnant. And I lost all of my friends except for 3. I mean, I even had a time where I caught a teacher who was around the corner and didn't know I was walking there, who was talking really badly about me. And Laura, I have to tell you, it was a rough season for me. It was a rough few months, because up until then, I was just Karen Donaldson, loving life, loving school, loving people. And when I found out, people treated me like I was diseased. And there was literally one day I was walking home from school, and I saw my reflection in the bus shelter. And I said to myself, I looked at myself and I said, Karen, you are the same Karen Donaldson you were in September. You're just pregnant. And if people want to, you're not diseased, you're not contagious. And if people want to treat you that way, they can, right? But you have to remember that the actions and the words of other people don't define you. You define you. And Laura, I promise you, from that moment, I walked back to school and I had no care in the world as to what they thought. because me being pregnant didn't differentiate who I was the day before they knew I was pregnant. So I went back to school with my head on high. And that year I graduated with the President's Award as valedictorian as well. And
What you did?
I did. I went back, and you could think what you want, but I was going to choose me over your thoughts. And that's exactly who I showed up as, how I acted. I started to sit at the front of the room again. Yes, I couldn't fit. I asked them to bring in a chair because my pregnant belly couldn't. Do you remember back in the day you had the desk and the chair attached? Do you remember that, Laura? I asked them to bring in a chair so I could sit at the front of the room. But that's where it started. And from that year, I started to be invited to come out and speak on perseverance and self-leadership just based on what they saw. And it moved from high schools to universities to colleges to corporate leadership retreats. And I've held 2 jobs in my lifetime. And my last formal full-time job was for a big health charity here in Canada. And at that time, I was speaking on behalf of the charity. I was their partnership specialist. So I was traveling around, receiving awards, delivering workshops, and sitting at senior tables. And there was a gentleman, he was a CEO, and he finally saw me speak. I was delivering a workshop on behalf of the health charity that I worked for. And he came up to me and he said, Karen, I want to tell you, he's a white gentleman, a white male, and he has no problem with me telling the story too. But nonetheless, he came up to me and said, Karen, who did they pay for you to talk like that on stage?
What?
Laura, yes. So in that moment, we're good friends. I laughed. I literally put my head back, one of those laughs, and I laughed out loud. And he said, I'm not joking. Who did they pay to teach you, to train you, to deliver like that? And I told him, outside of me working here at the foundation, I had been speaking on the side. So it had come through just experience, and my dance background brought in that whole body language and watching emotion and reading emotion and reacting to emotion, connecting through emotion, that nonverbal communication. And it was trial and error and years of doing it. And that's what allowed me to truly do what I'm doing today. So what happened after that was he said, well, if I pay you, can you teach me to do what you're doing? And I said, well, you can't be me. You can't be Black and beautiful. That's what I said at the time. I said, but you can be, and he was bald. I said, you can be bald and good.
As you should.
But just a great friend. But nonetheless, so he hired me as a CEO, and it went from his peers seeing him present and speak and his growth. I started to become referred. I went from CEOs to COOs to VPs to board of directors to superintendents to heads of states, politicians to celebrities. So that's how this career was born. That's what it looks like.
Wow. So tell me, so what's your kind of average day like now?
Oh, good question. My average day is very intentional. And what I mean by that is, so I wake up in the morning. Well, let me just show you my week. I work 3 days a week. So I work Tuesday to Thursday. Mondays are an admin day. Friday to the weekend, I don't work at all. That's just my time, family time. And I wake up early. I'm that person who works out in the morning. Do I love it? No, but I work out in the morning because I know what I need to do to stay healthy.
Same.
I hear you. So I wake up in the morning and my days don't start any earlier than about 10:30. So I'll jump on the computer about 10 and I lock off my days at 4:00 in the afternoon as well. And when I lock off my day, I lock off my day. And my clients also know that unless you have me on retainer, you have no access to me between that time, because not only that do I believe in taking time out and letting go, I want them to do the same. Right. So I would practice what I preach and just let them know that they can do it and be it too, because we have to choose ourselves first. Otherwise, we can't show up for anyone else. So that's what my day looks like.
Awesome. I love it. So, okay. Is there a difference that you found in working with celebrities versus heads of state?
I always get that question. The answer is no. And let me tell you why. And I work with some I don't know if I can swear, kick-ass entrepreneurs. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. I work with some kick-ass individuals and entrepreneurs in the world as well. But to answer your question directly, no, there's not a difference, because when I speaking from my place, when I work with individuals, I only see you as a human. And it doesn't matter if you sent a Bentley to pick me up, or you have a helicopter pad on top, or your team had to sweep the room that we had to meet in just for safety and security, or if you have security in front of the door, and those are all the realities. It doesn't matter, right? For me, I ask all my clients, I don't care if you make $1 a day or $1 million a day, to leave your ego at the door. Otherwise, I'm not the person to work with you. So after we get to that place, I'm dealing with the person, because the difficulty for a lot of people when it comes to communication, confidence, finding your voice, speaking up, being authentic, and sharing what you truly think in your head instead of tailoring it to fit someone else, is that it comes down to self-belief. And we can't work on your intentional self-belief until you leave your ego at the door. So it's similar, because I'm working with the individual in their most unfiltered form. And I have to tell you, Laura, sometimes it takes a session or two to get them to their unfiltered form, but I promise you, I can get them there. And that's the only time I can do work with them. So if they're not willing, then I'm fine to walk away. I'm fine to decline the client, because I'm all about getting you the results that you came here for. Right. So that's what it looks like for me. And there is, for me, there's no difference. There is no difference.
Wow. So as amazing as you are, I'm sure you had some tough times. So I would love for you to share a time where you're like, there's no way I'm getting through this. And then you did.
Indeed. I mean, outside of, I just want to jump back to my story about me being pregnant that last year of high school. I had received the full scholarship to the US. And that same time, I had applied to universities over here in Canada. And it was tough in the essence that I was fully pregnant. My mom was a single mom, and I wanted to go to post-secondary education. And I said to myself, okay, it doesn't happen in the States, not a problem. I had still applied locally, and I'd gotten into 3 universities, and I talked myself into, and it was tough because I needed to stay home with my daughter for a year. And all of my applications granted me acceptance for the September. My daughter was due in August. So I'm like, what do I do? Do I just not go to school and try and, do what I need to do? Do I go in and, ask for a deferral? No one had told me to do that. I had said it to my mom. She's like, okay, let's go in together and make an appointment. And I said, no, I'm going to do it myself. And I set an appointment with the dean, right? And this was my down moment, because my family, I tell you, Laura, my family saw me literally as a disappointment. I have people who verbally said it to me. In my yearbook that I have till this day, people wrote so many mean things, mean things. So as much as I believe that, I define myself and my worth, people were so rough on me and ignored me and said the meanest things to my face and around me. Right. So it was really a tough period. But what I did was I made an appointment, went to the dean's office, full belly in front of me and all, and asked for a deferral because I wanted to stay home with my daughter for that year. And he said yes. So I had that year home with my daughter, and I actually went back to school a year later, back to university. So I formally have a Bachelor of Applied Science. Yes, I am that science nerd and love it. But that was a really, really tough period. Another time that was really tough for me was when after I was called and referred out to do speaking engagements right out of high school. Laura, I didn't know you could really be paid and it was a career.
Oh,
and I tell people I was pimped, right?
I was gonna say, like, they probably saw you come up from a ways back.
Laura, I was paid $500. And at that time, just think about it, back in the day, I am 19, 20, 21. Someone wants me to speak about something that I love from the top of my head for 45 minutes, fly me to a destination or fly me to somewhere in the US because I was speaking across North America, pay for my flight, business class, get a limo to pick me up and pay for my suite. And on top of that, get paid $500. To me, it was a blessing, right? Not knowing. So I was going to these events, and I went to one event and there was quite a few keynote speakers or speakers in general. And a gentleman came afterwards and he said, Karen, you did a phenomenal job. What's your speaking fee? And I said, with a big old smile on my face, it's $500. And he looked like he saw a Holy Ghost, because he said, everyone else was paid $5,000 to do exactly what you just did. And it was that moment that I realized that okay, people were taking advantage of me and I really didn't know what I was doing. And he actually became my mentor, and then I hired him as my coach, and he showed me the ins and outs of the industry. But as I started to formalize my career as a professional speaker, I knocked on doors to meet people, to learn more about the industry. Fellow speakers is what I mean. And I have to tell you, I used to show up for coffee meetings that I've set up with people and they wouldn't show, right?
Mhm.
Because they only saw me as competition. And at that time, there in truth, over here in Canada, at least, there weren't a lot of Black speakers. And at that, Black female speakers. So I was shunned. No one wanted to talk to me. No one wanted to share anything with me. And I had to make a decision. And in the beginning, I mean, I used to show up fully dressed like everyone else was dressed,
Mhm.
right? And it
That's
wasn't
what you're
comfortable.
doing, right?
Listen, that's assimilation. And then it wasn't until one time I realized that they just wanted Karen. So
Exactly.
I went on stage once, and I think most ladies can attest to this, or however you identify can attest to this. You get those beautiful shoes, and you know you need to break them in before you wear them, but you don't.
Uh-oh.
You know that moment, right? So I went on stage looking cute as a boot. And listen, as I was doing my 1 hour talk, my feet were burning me. They were literally burning me. And I could continue, but the pain was so harsh that I literally, while on stage, and this was at least 500 people in the audience, I said, listen, everyone, you're going to have to sit with me for a minute. I said, ladies, has anyone ever put on shoes and they shouldn't have worn it because they're too tight, or they should have kind of broke them in? And, the ladies raised their hands. And I said, you're going to have to excuse me and love me the same way, because I have to take these off. And Laura, I took off my shoes, I placed them right center stage facing front, and I continued the talk. And that was my best talk ever, because so many people came up to me after and said, I loved how real you were. Most people would sit in their shoes and you talked it through. You didn't try and hide it. You didn't ask someone to come on and talk while you did your thing backstage. You let us know what was happening, and you just did it. You were just comfortable enough with yourself to do it. And that's how I now bring myself to the stages that I do speak on. So, as I shared, communication confidence coach, I'm a keynote speaker on those topics. And I also show people how to get booked and paid to speak, right? And work on their confidence overall. But they like that authenticity. So now I just rock me. I go on stage. I love big jewelry. I wear lots of jewelry. Quite often they ask me to take it off. Every time I tell them no. Every time I tell them no. But yeah, it's you get what you see. And if I know I'm not a fit for everybody, right? But we have to take some losses with the wins. And those losses often are the ones that allow me to make room for the bigger stuff that are there to come.
Well, you know what? Honestly, that's the biggest thing. I mean, it's funny, like I similarly have kind of flipped all of that. Because I remember when I first started, we had this whole thing about the D-flash girls. And so like we wear dresses and cute heels and wedges, and we sort of be the people you would know at the events. And like 5-6 years ago, I'm like, I don't need to do this.
Right.
I like looking cute. However, I can look cute in a million and one different ways. And so I love all kinds of really cool, funky sneakers. So I'm just gonna start wearing these sneakers. Because one, I'm walking and talking. So I should be comfortable. Why am I wearing like 4-inch heels? This is dumb.
Yes.
And also I've given more talks where I'm in like, pointed toe Karl Lagerfeld sneakers than anything else. Because like what I'm saying is the most important, but what I'm wearing is also a function of me. Like I usually 99% of the time will wear a red something, whether a shirt, a dress, a skirt, whatever it might be, because I want people to sort of realize, hey, like one, I'm the one in charge. Two, I'm super accessible, because like that's kind of the color of power and goodness.
Yes.
But when you do that, folks can they see who you are. And I've really noticed it in the last few years, because I thought, and I think there's this sort of belief that if you're a Black woman, you're supposed to fit into these certain boxes. Like you should be wearing like fully beat face and all this stuff. And I think that we've now seen, you can be anyone from an Arlen Hamilton who loves to wear hoodies and has a purple and white Air Jordans, to Bazona St. John's, who loves the sequins at 10 a.m., to whatever you want to be, and whoever you feel the most comfortable as you, be you.
That's right. That's right. And we attract the right people to us when we do. And I always say it's okay to repel people because not everyone's for us. And it took me a minute, Laura, but I'm now okay with it. Not everyone is for me. And that my intention isn't to be, everything for everyone, but for those who I am a right fit for, I'm here for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If I'm here for you, great, awesome.
Yes.
If not, great to meet you.
Correct.
Like that's
Correct.
all good. It's not gonna hurt me. It really won't hurt my feelings. I swear it won't.
Definitely. Definitely.
It'll be okay.
It sure will.
It'll be all right. But yeah, it's quite the experience, and I think that's I think one of the things coming out of the pandemic that we've all kind of learned is that, like, what we will accept and what we won't accept.
I think I agree. We're a lot more clearer with that, and we're not tolerant with what we won't accept because we don't have to be. We shouldn't have to be. That's the thing. We shouldn't have to be. And like when we own that and realize that we shouldn't have to be, and it's okay not to be, and the okayness doesn't have to come from the approval of someone else, that's when everything shifts for us.
Yeah.
Right? Yep.
I don't want to hear about this anymore. Like, leave me alone. Like, it's good. And if I don't want to do it, I'm not doing it. That's it.
It can be that simple.
Like, and that's all we should have to deal with. I think we get we get so caught up in what we're supposed to be doing, and oh my gosh, what are they gonna think? What are they gonna do? And I'm like, you know what? Let it the heck go. Honestly, just let it all go.
That's so right.
You'll be in much better shape. You'll feel a lot better if you just let it all go.
Indeed.
And I think once you realize that, it puts you in a much better headspace and frame of reference for who and what you want to be. Now, I'm sure that you have a lot of these, but I'm curious to know what they're going to be. What do you do for your self-care?
Oh boy. Okay. I do have a lot of things. So I've always been a believer in self-care. So what do I do right now for self-care?